Red Bull makes a huge decision on its driver lineup. Yuki's future has been revealed. And all the latest F1 news. Hold on to your racing helmets, Formula One fans, because the Red Bull family just dropped a bombshell that nobody saw coming. Yuki Tsunoda, the Japanese speedster who has been tearing up the track in Red Bull colors for 7 incredible years, just learned his fate for the 2026 season. And let me tell you, this decision is sending shockwaves through the entire paddock right now. Picture this. You're Yuki Tsunoda. You've been grinding in Formula One for 5 solid seasons. You finally get your shot with the big boys at Red Bull. And then boom. The team announces you're being replaced by a driver who's only had 1 season in the sport. That's exactly what happened when Red Bull confirmed that Isaac Hadjar will be taking Tsunoda's seat alongside Max Verstappen next year. But here's where this story gets really interesting. Red Bull isn't just throwing Tsunoda to the curb like yesterday's newspaper. Instead, they're keeping him in the family with a brand new role that could actually be more valuable than anyone realizes right now. Laurent Mekies, Red Bull's team principal, just went on record with some pretty eye-opening comments about this whole situation. And when you hear what he has to say about both Tsunoda and his replacement, you'll understand why this decision is causing such a stir in the Formula One world. Let's start with the elephant in the room. Tsunoda has been struggling to match Verstappen's pace since his promotion from Racing Bulls earlier this season. Now, anyone who knows Formula One understands that matching Max Verstappen is like trying to catch lightning in a bottle while riding a unicycle. The guy is a 4-time world champion for a reason. But in the cutthroat world of Formula One, struggling against the best driver on the grid can still cost you your seat. Miki's had some fascinating insights about Tsunoda's journey over the years. He's watched this Japanese driver transform from a promising talent into what he calls a complete racer. Think about that progression for a moment. Over 5 seasons in Formula One, Tsunoda has developed into someone who can nail those crucial Saturday qualifying laps and deliver exceptional race starts on Sunday. His racecraft has evolved to the point where even his competitors respect what he brings to the track. But what really caught my attention was Miki's talking about Tsunoda's personality. He described it as infectious, saying it's impossible not to like the guy. That tells you something profound about the culture inside Red Bull. This isn't just about lap times and championship points. They genuinely care about the human beings behind the helmets. So if Tsunoda is such a complete racer with an infectious personality, why replace him? The answer lies in Red Bull's philosophy about raw speed and potential. Meki's made it crystal clear that raw speed is the #1 requirement in Formula One. And apparently, Isaac Hadjar has been showing exactly that kind of speed in his rookie season. Hadjar's story is pretty remarkable when you think about it. This French driver earned his first Formula One podium at Zandvoort over the summer, which is no small feat for someone in their debut season. Mekies specifically praised Hadjar's maturity and his ability to learn quickly, but it all comes back to that raw speed factor. Here's what makes this decision even more intriguing. Red Bull is about to embark on one of the biggest challenges in its Formula One history. 2026 marks the first time they'll be operating as their own factory operation with Red Bull Ford powertrains. That's a massive undertaking that requires every single component to be firing on all cylinders. Mekies believes Hadjar can thrive alongside Verstappen and produce what he calls magic on track. That's a pretty bold statement to make about a driver with only 1 season under his belt. But Red Bull has built its entire program on identifying and nurturing young talent. So they must see something special in this French speedster. Now, let's talk about Tsunoda's new role, because this is where things get really interesting. He's not disappearing from the Red Bull family. Instead, he's transitioning into a test and reserve driver position for 2026. On the surface, that might sound like a demotion, but think about the bigger picture here. Test and reserve drivers play crucial roles in modern Formula One teams. They're the ones logging countless hours in simulators, helping develop the cars, and providing invaluable feedback that can make or break a season. With the massive regulation changes coming in 2026, having someone with Tsunoda's experience and racecraft in that role could be absolutely critical. Mekies specifically mentioned that Tsunoda will provide invaluable support to the 2026 projects moving forward. That suggests Red Bull sees him as more than just a backup option. They view him as an integral part of their development process for what could be the most important season in the team's recent history. The timing of all this is fascinating too. Tsunoda gets one final hurrah at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix before transitioning into his new role. That's like getting a proper send-off from the racing side of things, while simultaneously setting up for what could be an equally important contribution behind the scenes. What makes this story even more compelling is how it reflects Red Bull's overall approach to driver development. They've also confirmed that Liam Lawson will stay with Racing Bulls for 2026, paired with British teenager Arvid Lindblad, who's another graduate from Red Bull's junior program. This shows they're constantly nurturing talent at every level of their organization. The broader implications of this decision extend far beyond just one driver swap. Red Bull is essentially betting that Hajar's raw speed and potential outweigh Tsunoda's experience and proven racecraft. That's a calculated risk that could either pay off tremendously or backfire spectacularly. From Hajar's perspective, the pressure is absolutely immense. Going from a rookie season to partnering with Max Verstappen in a factory team's debut year, that's like being thrown into the deep end of the ocean while wearing concrete shoes. But if Red Bull believes he can handle it, there must be something extraordinary about his abilities. For Tsunoda, this transition represents both an ending and a beginning. Yes, his days as a race driver are on hold, but his knowledge and experience could prove invaluable in helping Red Bull navigate the complexities of their new factory operation. Sometimes, the most important contributions happen away from the spotlight. The Formula One landscape in 2026 is going to be dramatically different with new regulations and power unit changes. Teams that can adapt quickly and efficiently will have a massive advantage. Having someone like Tsunoda working behind the scenes, leveraging his 7 years of experience in Red Bull colors, could be the difference between success and failure. As we head into this final race weekend in Abu Dhabi, all eyes will be on Tsunoda's farewell performance as a Red Bull race driver. But this isn't really goodbye. It's more like see you later, as he prepares to take on a role that could be just as important as anything he's done on the racetrack. The Formula One world never stops evolving, and Red Bull's decision proves that sometimes the biggest risks lead to the greatest rewards. Only time will tell if this gamble pays off. When Formula One drama reaches the halls of Australian Parliament, you know something extraordinary has happened. This isn't your typical racing controversy that stays confined to the paddock or social media. This is about a potential championship being decided not by speed or skill, but by strategic decisions that have an entire nation questioning whether their racing hero is getting a fair shot at glory. Picture this scene. It's a Tuesday morning in Canberra, and senators are gathered for a routine parliamentary hearing on transportation matters. Suddenly, the conversation takes an unexpected turn, as Senator Matt Canavan poses a question that would make headlines around the world. He looks directly at the committee and asks whether McLaren Formula One team is deliberately sabotaging Oscar Piastri's championship chances. Yes, you heard that right. The Australian Parliament is now investigating Formula One team bias. The backdrop to this political intervention tells a story of heartbreak and frustration that extends far beyond the racetrack. Just weeks earlier, Oscar Piastri sat atop the Formula One Drivers' Championship standings with what seemed like an insurmountable lead. The young Australian had built a commanding 70-point advantage over his teammate Lando Norris and held an even more impressive 104-point cushion over three-time world champion Max Verstappen. For Australian motorsport fans, this represented the fulfillment of a decades-long dream to see one of their own compete for the ultimate prize in racing. But championships in Formula One are rarely won during the peak of summer. They're decided in the grueling final stretch when pressure mounts, strategies become crucial, and every decision can mean the difference between glory and disappointment. What happened next would transform Piastri's commanding lead into a desperate fight for survival, ultimately landing the controversy in Australia's seat of political power. The turning point came during the Qatar Grand Prix weekend, where McLaren made a strategic decision that would haunt them and potentially cost their driver the championship. When a safety car emerged on lap 7, Virtually every team on the grid made the call to bring their drivers into the pits for fresh tires. McLaren, however, chose differently. They kept both Piastri and Norris on track, believing they could avoid traffic and maintain track position. In motorsport, as in politics, timing is everything. McLaren's decision to stay out while their competitors pitted proved to be a catastrophic miscalculation. The team essentially handed Max Verstappen and Red Bull Racing a free pit stop, allowing the Dutch driver to gain crucial track position and ultimately secure victory. More importantly, this single strategic blunder shifted the entire championship dynamic, reducing Piastri's once comfortable lead to just 12 points with only one race remaining. The mathematics of this disaster are staggering. In refusing to pit during the safety car period, McLaren effectively gifted Verstappen approximately 25 seconds of track time. In a sport where victories are often decided by margins measured in thousandths of a second, such a concession represents an almost unforgivable error. For Piastri, who had controlled the race and seemed destined for victory, watching his championship hopes evaporate due to his team's strategic miscalculation must have been agonizing. But the real story here goes deeper than a single race or strategic error. Australian fans and political figures are questioning whether this represents part of a broader pattern of unfavorable treatment toward Piastri within the McLaren organization. The timing of various strategic decisions throughout the season has raised eyebrows among close observers of the sport. Some have pointed to instances where team decisions appeared to favor Norris, the British driver, over his Australian teammate. When Senator Canavan posed his provocative question to the parliamentary committee, he wasn't simply making political theater. He was giving voice to the frustrations of millions of Australian Formula One fans who have watched their champion's title hopes slip away through what many perceive as questionable team management. The senator's question reflected a broader national sentiment that Piastri has been treated unfairly by his own team during the most crucial period of his career. The response from Regional Affairs Assistant Minister Anthony Chisholm was telling. Rather than dismissing the question as inappropriate for parliamentary discussion, Chisholm acknowledged the concern, stating that Piastri had indeed faced some questionable decisions throughout the season. His personal anecdote about his Formula One-obsessed daughter's reaction to the Qatar result humanized the political response and demonstrated how deeply this sporting controversy has penetrated Australian consciousness. McLaren team principal Andrea Stella's post-race explanation revealed the team's awareness of their strategic failure. When pressed by journalists about whether McLaren had essentially given away 25 seconds to Verstappen, Stella admitted this was a fair interpretation. His acknowledgement that Piastri had been in control of the race and deserved victory only deepened the sense that the Australian driver had been let down by his own team at the critical moment. The broader implications of this controversy extend beyond individual championship aspirations. For Australian motorsport, Piastri represents something special. He embodies the country's renewed competitiveness in Formula One after years of limited representation at the highest level. His championship challenge has united Australian sports fans across traditional divides, creating a shared national investment in his success that transcends typical sporting loyalties. The parliamentary intervention also highlights how modern Formula One has evolved beyond mere sporting competition. The sport now carries significant cultural, political, and economic implications for the countries represented by its drivers. When an Australian driver competes for the World Championship, it becomes a matter of national pride that extends into political discourse and public policy discussions. McLaren's promise to conduct a thorough investigation into their Qatar strategy decisions suggests the team recognizes the gravity of their error. However, for Piastri and his supporters, such investigations feel insufficient when a championship hangs in the balance. The damage has been done, and with only one race remaining in the season, there may be no opportunity to rectify what many see as a preventable catastrophe. The psychological impact on Piastri himself cannot be understated. Leading a championship by such a substantial margin only to see it slip away due to factors largely beyond his control represents one of the crueler aspects of professional motorsport. The mental fortitude required to maintain focus and competitiveness while watching a dream dissolve in real time speaks to the character demanded of elite athletes. As the Formula One season approaches its conclusion in Abu Dhabi, the stakes couldn't be higher. Piastri now faces the daunting task of overcoming not just his points deficit, but also the psychological burden of knowing his championship hopes rest on factors beyond his individual performance. The support of an entire nation, as demonstrated by parliamentary intervention, may provide some comfort, but ultimately, championships are won on the racetrack through a combination of speed, strategy, and circumstance. The fact that this controversy has reached the halls of Australian Parliament demonstrates Formula One's unique position in global culture. No other motorsport commands such attention from political figures, and few sporting controversies generate discussion at the highest levels of government. This intersection of sport and politics reflects the deeper cultural significance of championship competition in our interconnected world. Whether McLaren's strategic decisions represent bias, incompetence, or simply unfortunate timing may never be definitively answered. What remains clear is that Oscar Piastri's championship challenge has captured imaginations far beyond traditional motorsport audiences, creating a story that resonates in boardrooms, parliament chambers, and living rooms across Australia and beyond. The coming race in Abu Dhabi will determine not just a championship, but also whether parliamentary intervention in sporting matters becomes a precedent for future controversies involving Australian athletes. You're about to witness one of the most embarrassing moments in Formula One history, and it involves a 7-time world champion who had absolutely no clue what just happened in front of millions of viewers. Picture this: Lewis Hamilton, one of the greatest drivers ever to grace the sport, sitting in a media interview completely oblivious to who actually won the race he just competed in. The moment his brain processed the truth, his reaction was absolutely priceless. What happened in Qatar wasn't just funny, it was a perfect snapshot of how dramatically the landscape of Formula One has shifted. We're talking about a driver who used to dominate headlines and championship conversations, now so far removed from the action at the front that he literally missed the entire race outcome. This isn't just about one awkward moment. This is about the harsh reality of sporting decline and what happens when legends face the inevitable march of time. But here's where it gets really interesting. Hamilton's confusion wasn't just about missing who crossed the finish line first. It revealed something much deeper about the current state of Mercedes, the psychological impact of struggling at the back of the grid, and how even the most experienced professionals can become disconnected when they're fighting battles nobody's paying attention to. The Qatar Grand Prix had just concluded, and while Max Verstappen was celebrating another crucial victory in his championship fight, Lewis Hamilton was wrapping up what had been another forgettable afternoon for the Mercedes team. The 7-time world champion had climbed out of his car, gone through the usual post-race routine, and settled into his media obligations without the faintest idea about the drama that had unfolded at the front of the field. Hamilton was deep into his interview session when a journalist decided to ask for his thoughts on the championship battle. It seemed like a routine question, the kind of inquiry Hamilton had fielded thousands of times throughout his illustrious career. What happened next, however, was anything but routine. The conversation started innocently enough. Hamilton inquired about Oscar Piastri's position in the championship standings, clearly under the impression that the young McLaren driver had secured victory in Qatar. When told that Piastri was 16 points behind in the championship fight, Hamilton's mathematical mind kicked in, trying to piece together the puzzle of the title race. That's when the journalist dropped the bombshell that would create one of the year's most memorable Formula One moments. When Hamilton questioned how Max Verstappen could be only 12 points behind, the media representative delivered the news that would completely blindside the British driver. The revelation that Verstappen had actually won the race hit Hamilton like a thunderbolt. His immediate reaction was raw and unfiltered, a genuine expression of shock that perfectly captured just how removed he had become from the championship fight. The expletive that escaped his lips wasn't calculated media speak or diplomatic racing driver language. It was pure human surprise. This moment perfectly encapsulated the dramatic shift in Hamilton's Formula One experience. Just a few years earlier, such a scenario would have been unthinkable. Hamilton was always in the thick of championship battles, always aware of every strategic nuance, every point scored, every position gained or lost. The idea that he wouldn't know who won a Grand Prix was as foreign as suggesting he didn't know his own name, but the 2024 season had been a different beast entirely for Hamilton and Mercedes. Struggling with a car that refused to cooperate, fighting battles in the midfield rather than at the sharp end, Hamilton had become a spectator to the championship fight rather than a protagonist. The psychological impact of this shift cannot be understated. When you're used to being the hunter or the hunted at the front of the pack, suddenly finding yourself irrelevant to the main storyline creates a disconnection that goes beyond just track position. Hamilton's admission that he thought Piastri had won revealed how his focus had naturally shifted to the battles he could see and influence, rather than the championship drama happening miles ahead on track. The Qatar circuit itself played a role in this confusion. Known for its lack of overtaking opportunities in processional racing, drivers often become isolated in their own battles, unable to see the bigger picture unfolding around them. Hamilton had been fighting his own demons with the Mercedes, trying to extract performance from a package that simply wasn't responding the way he needed it to. What makes this story even more compelling is Hamilton's reaction once he processed the information. Rather than showing embarrassment or defensiveness, he immediately pivoted to praising Verstappen's performance. This response showcased the class and professionalism that has defined Hamilton's career, even in moments when he might have preferred to hide under a rock. Hamilton's assessment of Verstappen was particularly insightful. He acknowledged not just the Dutch driver's individual brilliance, but also the strength of the Red Bull operation as a whole. This wasn't bitter commentary from a frustrated competitor, but genuine recognition of excellence from someone who understands what it takes to operate at that level. The admission that Red Bull had possessed the best car for the past 4 years, with perhaps a slight dip at the beginning of the current season before their resurgence, showed Hamilton's analytical mind at work. Even in his moment of embarrassment, he was processing the bigger picture of competitive balance in Formula One. But Hamilton didn't stop at praising his rivals. He also took the opportunity to criticize aspects of the Qatar Grand Prix that had contributed to the processional nature of the race. His comments about the DRS zones and overtaking opportunities revealed a driver still deeply invested in improving the spectacle of Formula One, even when he wasn't benefiting from the current format. The story Hamilton told about raising concerns in the driver's briefing painted a picture of someone still thinking strategically about racecraft and entertainment value. His suggestion to extend DRS zones to create more overtaking opportunities showed that despite his current struggles, Hamilton remained committed to making the sport better for everyone involved. His criticism of the Lusail circuit's pit lane configuration was particularly technical, highlighting the kind of detailed analysis that separates great drivers from merely good ones. Even when Hamilton was having an off day in terms of race awareness, his understanding of track design and racing strategy remained sharp. This entire episode serves as a fascinating case study in how success and failure can shift perspective in professional sports. Hamilton's obliviousness to the race winner wasn't just an isolated moment of confusion. It was symbolic of a broader transformation in his Formula One experience. The contrast between Hamilton's current situation and his dominant years couldn't be more stark. During his championship-winning seasons, particularly with Mercedes from 2014 to 2020, Hamilton was intimately aware of every strategic detail, every championship point, every rival's performance. The idea that he wouldn't know who won a race during those years would have been laughable. But sports, like life, are cyclical. Champions rise and fall, dominant teams lose their edge, and new heroes emerge to capture the spotlight. Hamilton's Qatar moment was a perfect illustration of this natural progression, delivered with the kind of authenticity that reminded everyone why he remains such a compelling figure in Formula One. Looking at this incident through the lens of championship psychology, it's clear that Hamilton's mental energy had been redirected toward different priorities. When you're fighting for 15th place instead of first place, Your awareness naturally shifts to the battles immediately around you rather than the championship implications happening elsewhere. This redirection of focus isn't a sign of diminished commitment or professionalism. Instead, it represents a natural adaptation to changed circumstances. Hamilton was still giving maximum effort in his Mercedes, still analyzing every aspect of his performance, still seeking ways to improve. The difference was that these efforts were no longer translating into championship relevance. The humor in Hamilton's reaction also revealed something important about his personality and approach to adversity. Rather than becoming bitter or withdrawn in the face of competitive struggles, he maintained enough perspective to find genuine surprise and even amusement in his oversight. This kind of emotional resilience is part of what has made Hamilton such an enduring figure in Formula One. As the season wound toward its conclusion, moments like these served as important reminders of how quickly circumstances can change in Formula One. Hamilton's Qatar confusion will be remembered as a perfect snapshot of a transitional period, both for the driver himself and for the sport as a whole. The incident also highlighted the intense bubble that Formula One drivers exist within during race weekends. When you're focused on extracting every tenth of a second from your car, managing tire strategies, and fighting for position, it becomes easy to lose sight of the broader race narrative, especially when you're not part of the main storyline. Hamilton's honest reaction to discovering Verstappen's victory ultimately made him more relatable and human. It showed that even the greatest champions can have moments of disconnection, and that the pressure and intensity of Formula One competition can create tunnel vision even for the most experienced professionals. This Qatar moment will likely become part of Hamilton's legacy, not as an embarrassment, but as a perfectly human moment that captured a specific point in time when the sport was transitioning from one era to another, and when one of its greatest champions was learning to navigate a very different kind of challenge than he had ever faced before. Formula One is about to witness one of the biggest transformations in its modern history, and Alpine just dropped a bombshell announcement that has the entire F1 world buzzing. The struggling French team has just confirmed when they'll unveil their 2026 challenger. And trust me, this isn't just another car launch. This could be the moment everything changes for Alpine. Picture this: a team currently dead last in the championship standings, making radical changes that could either catapult them to the front of the grid or send them spiraling even further into obscurity. Alpine has just announced they'll be revealing their A526 on January 23rd in Barcelona, and the timing couldn't be more crucial. Now, you might be wondering why this matters so much. Well, let me tell you something that most people don't realize about the 2026 season. It's not just another year in Formula One. We're talking about the most significant regulation overhaul since the hybrid era began in 2014. Both the chassis and power unit regulations are changing simultaneously, which historically has shuffled the competitive order like a deck of cards. Alpine's announcement makes them the fourth team to confirm their launch plans for this revolutionary season. Redbull and their sister team are going first on January 15th at a Ford event, while Aston Martin will follow on February 9th with their AMR26. But here's where it gets interesting. Alpine's January 23rd date places them perfectly in this launch timeline, just 3 days before the first preseason test begins behind closed doors at Barcelona. But the real story here isn't just about dates and logistics. Alpine is making a massive strategic shift that could define their future in Formula One. For years, they've operated as a factory team with their own Renault power units, but 2026 marks their transition to becoming a customer team, powered by Mercedes engines. This decision represents a complete philosophical change. They're essentially admitting that developing their own engine isn't working and betting their entire future on Mercedes' engineering excellence. It's a humble move from a proud French manufacturer, but it might just be the smartest decision they've made in years. Think about the teams that have succeeded with Mercedes power units recently. The factory Mercedes team dominated the early hybrid era, while McLaren has been resurging with impressive performances. Even customer teams like Aston Martin have shown flashes of brilliance with Mercedes power. Alpine is clearly hoping some of that success will transfer to their Enstone-based operation. The driver lineup adds another layer of intrigue to this story. Franco Colapinto, the young Argentine sensation who impressed everyone during his brief stint with Williams, will be partnering with Pierre Gasly. This pairing represents a perfect blend of experience and raw talent, potentially giving Alpine the foundation they need to climb back up the standings. Colapinto's signing was particularly significant because it shows Alpine's commitment to developing young talent while maintaining stability. Gasly brings the experience and feedback crucial for car development, while Colapinto offers the hunger and fearlessness that can make the difference in tight championship battles. But let's talk about what's really happening behind the scenes at Enstone. Alpine Managing Director Steve Nielsen recently opened up about the challenges facing the team, and his words reveal both the problems and the potential solutions. He emphasized that Alpine has been through too many changes in recent years, creating instability that has hurt their development process. Nielsen's approach focuses on consistency and patience, two qualities that don't naturally align with Formula One's demanding environment. However, his recognition that this is fundamentally a people business shows he understands what needs to be fixed. The talent is there at Enstone, but it needs proper coordination and management to flourish. The facility itself has a rich history of success. Remember, this is the same Enstone factory that produced championship-winning cars for Benetton and Renault in previous eras. The infrastructure and knowledge base exist. They just need the right leadership and stability to unlock their potential. What makes the 2026 regulation changes so significant is their scope. We're not talking about minor aerodynamic tweaks or small power unit modifications. The entire technical landscape is shifting, with new power unit regulations designed to make the sport more sustainable while maintaining performance levels that keep fans engaged. These changes create opportunities for teams that have been struggling. History shows us that major regulation changes can completely reshuffle the competitive order. Look at how Braun GP emerged from nowhere to win both championships in 2009, or how Mercedes dominated when hybrid power units were introduced in 2014. Alpine's timing for this transformation couldn't be better. They're entering this new era without the baggage of trying to make existing concepts work under new rules. Instead, they can start fresh with Mercedes power units that have proven their competitiveness and reliability over recent seasons. The pre-season testing schedule also plays into this narrative perfectly. With 3 separate test sessions totaling 11 days, teams will have unprecedented time to understand their new machinery. This extended testing period could be crucial for Alpine, giving them multiple opportunities to identify and solve any integration issues with their new Mercedes power units. Barcelona has been chosen as the location for Alpine's launch, and this venue choice isn't coincidental. The Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya hosts the first preseason test just 3 days after Alpine's car reveal, creating a seamless transition from marketing event to serious development work. This compressed timeline between launch and testing reflects the sport's evolution. Teams no longer have the luxury of extended development periods between revealing their cars and getting them on track. Everything happens faster now, requiring more preparation and coordination than ever before. The competitive implications of Alpine's transformation extend beyond just their own fortunes. If they successfully integrate Mercedes power units and climb the standings, it could influence other teams' strategic decisions. We might see more manufacturers reconsidering whether developing their own engines makes financial and competitive sense. Looking at the broader picture, Alpine's 2026 campaign represents a fascinating case study in Formula One team management. They're essentially betting everything on the idea that focusing resources on chassis development while purchasing proven power units will yield better results than spreading their efforts across both areas. This strategy makes particular sense when you consider the cost cap regulations that now govern Formula One. With limited budgets, teams must make strategic choices about where to invest their resources. Alpine has decided that buying Mercedes engines and focusing on aerodynamics, suspension, and vehicle dynamics offers their best path to competitiveness. The success or failure of this approach will likely influence other teams' strategies for years to come. If Alpine climbs significantly in the standings, expect more teams to consider similar partnerships. If they continue struggling despite Mercedes' power, it will reinforce the value of integrated factory team operations. As we approach January 23rd, the anticipation continues building. Alpine's A526 launch won't just reveal a new car. It will showcase whether their complete strategic overhaul can transform a struggling team into a genuine competitor. The stakes couldn't be higher, and the entire Formula One community will be watching closely. The story of Alpine's 2026 campaign begins with their launch in Barcelona, but the real narrative will unfold over the following months of testing, racing, and development. One thing is certain: this transformation represents one of the most significant gambles in recent Formula One history, and we're about to discover whether it pays off. Picture this. A 14-year-old kid walks up to one of Formula One's hottest drivers and delivers one of the most confident predictions in motorsport history. The kid looks him dead in the eye and says, "Remember my name because I'll be racing against you in 5 years." Fast forward to today, December 2nd, 2025, and that bold prediction just became reality. What you're about to witness is the incredible story of how a teenage dreamer transformed an audacious moment into Formula One destiny. This isn't just about making it to the pinnacle of motorsport. This is about the power of unwavering belief and the blueprint that legends follow to make impossible dreams come true. The story begins with Arvid Lindblad, a British racing prodigy who understood something most people never grasp. Sometimes the biggest risks create the biggest rewards. When he was just 14 years old, Lindblad found himself in the paddock where Lando Norris was launching his go-kart line. Most kids would have asked for an autograph or maybe a quick selfie, but Lindblad had different plans entirely. He approached Norris with the kind of confidence that would make seasoned veterans nervous. "Hello, Lando," he said. "I want you to remember me. I'll see you in 5 years." Then he walked away, leaving Norris probably wondering what just happened. It was a moment that seemed almost absurd at the time. A kid with big dreams making promises to established stars. But there was method to this madness. Lindblad wasn't just being cocky. He was following a blueprint that had been proven to work by one of the greatest drivers in Formula One history. Lewis Hamilton had done something remarkably similar years earlier when he approached McLaren team principal Ron Dennis at an awards ceremony. Hamilton looked Dennis in the eye and declared that one day he wanted to be Formula One world champion in a McLaren car. That moment became legendary when Hamilton delivered on his promise by winning his first world championship with McLaren in 2008. The parallel between Hamilton and Lindblad runs deeper than just bold statements. Both understood that sometimes you have to create your own opportunities. Both recognized that confidence combined with talent could open doors that seemed impossible to unlock. And both were willing to put their reputation on the line with public declarations that could either make them look brilliant or foolish. When Lindblad explained his reasoning years later on the Inside Line Formula One podcast, he revealed the calculated nature of his approach. He said he was just walking in the paddock and felt like making his statement. He remembered Hamilton's story with Ron Dennis and thought, why not just tell Norris he'd be racing against him in a few years? It was a spur-of-the-moment decision, but one delivered with complete confidence. That confidence has now been vindicated in the most spectacular way possible. Red Bull has announced their complete driver lineups for Formula One 2026, and Arvid Lindblad will make his debut with Racing Bulls. He'll be partnering with Liam Lawson as he steps up from Formula 2 directly into the world's premier racing series. The teenager who made that bold prediction at 14 will line up on the Formula One grid at just 18 years old. The announcement represents a seismic shift in Red Bull's driver strategy. Isaac Hadjar has been promoted to the main Red Bull team, where he'll partner with four-time world champion Max Verstappen. This reshuffling means Yuki Tsunoda loses his grid position, though he'll remain with the team as their test and reserve driver for 2026. It's a reminder of how quickly fortunes can change in Formula One, where talent and timing must align perfectly. Lindblad's promotion isn't just about making good on a childhood promise. He's genuinely earned his place through exceptional performance in the junior categories. The British driver holds the record as the youngest race winner in both Formula 3 and Formula 2. This year alone, he's won 2 races in what will be his only Formula 2 season before making the jump to Formula 1. These aren't the achievements of someone riding on luck or connections. This is pure talent being rewarded. The timing of this announcement creates an incredible narrative backdrop. Norris heads to Abu Dhabi this weekend with the chance to secure his first Formula 1 World Championship. He leads the championship by 12 points over Verstappen, with his McLaren teammate Oscar Piastri also mathematically in contention. Meanwhile, Lindblad will be competing in Formula 2 action at the same circuit, preparing for his transition to the top level. The resurfaced footage of their encounter has gone viral across social media platforms. Fans are amazed by the prophetic nature of Lindblad's words and the confidence he displayed even as a young teenager. The video serves as a powerful reminder that sometimes the most audacious dreams are the ones most likely to come true. It's become a symbol of how belief in yourself can literally change your destiny. What makes this story even more compelling is the broader context of how young drivers are breaking through in modern Formula 1. The sport has seen an influx of talented teenagers making their mark, but few have done so with such a clear narrative arc. Lindblad didn't just dream of reaching Formula 1. He specifically told an established driver that they would be competitors, creating a story that was destined to be revisited when his prediction came true. The Red Bull Junior program has produced numerous Formula 1 drivers over the years, but Lindblad represents something special. He's been described as one of the most exciting prospects to come through their system in recent memory. His rapid progression through the ranks suggests he has the skills to back up his early confidence. The combination of natural talent and unwavering self-belief has created a perfect storm for success. As we look ahead to Formula 1 2026, the Lindblad-Norris dynamic will be fascinating to watch unfold. The veteran Norris, hopefully by then a world champion, will face off against the rookie who predicted their rivalry years earlier. It's the kind of storyline that sports writers dream about, where reality exceeds the most optimistic fiction. This story teaches us something profound about the power of declaring your intentions to the world. When you make bold statements publicly, you create accountability for yourself. You also plant seeds in the minds of others who might remember your words when opportunities arise. Lindblad's approach wasn't just about confidence. It was about creating a narrative that people would want to see fulfilled. The Hamilton blueprint that inspired Lindblad's approach has now proven successful across multiple generations. It shows that sometimes the best way to achieve your dreams is to announce them boldly and then work relentlessly to make them reality. Both Hamilton and Lindblad understood that talent alone isn't enough. You also need to create opportunities and make people remember who you are. As Arvid Lindblad prepares for his Formula 1 debut, he carries with him not just the weight of expectations, but the power of a promise kept. He told Lando Norris to remember his name, and now the entire Formula 1 world will be watching to see what this confident teenager can accomplish on the sport's biggest stage. Sometimes the boldest predictions become the most beautiful realities. What happens when the fastest team in Formula 1 makes a catastrophic mistake that could cost them everything? Well, buckle up because we're about to dive into one of the most dramatic championship showdowns in recent F1 history. And it all comes down to McLaren's massive blunder in Qatar that's left their drivers absolutely furious heading into the season finale. Picture this. You're sitting pretty with a front row lockout, your drivers are flying, and you're about to deliver the knockout punch to Max Verstappen's championship hopes. Then, in one devastating moment, everything falls apart. That's exactly what happened to McLaren in Qatar, and the fallout is about to make Abu Dhabi absolutely explosive. Let me paint you the full picture of what went wrong and why this disaster might actually be the best thing that could have happened to McLaren at the worst possible time. The stage was perfectly set in Qatar. Oscar Piastri had finally found his groove again, securing pole position with Lando Norris right beside him. This wasn't just any weekend either. This was supposed to be McLaren's moment to put the championship to bed. Verstappen was starting way down the grid, 25 points behind Norris in the standings. Everything was aligned for McLaren to cruise to their first Constructors' Championship in over a decade. Piastri absolutely nailed the start. While chaos erupted behind him, the young Australian pulled away from the field like he was driving a completely different car. He built a 2-second gap in the opening laps, looking every bit the driver who won his first Grand Prix earlier this season. For those few precious minutes, McLaren fans around the world were probably already planning their celebration parties. But then disaster struck in the most McLaren way possible. When Nico Hülkenberg crashed on lap 7, bringing out the safety car, McLaren faced a critical decision. Nearly everyone else dived into the pits for fresh tires. Nearly everyone except Piastri and Norris. In that single moment, McLaren threw away what should have been an easy 1-2 finish and handed Max Verstappen the lifeline he desperately needed. The team later admitted they made a huge mistake. Team principal Andrea Stella even went as far as saying they effectively gave their rivals a free pit stop. But the damage was already done. Piastri, forced to make 2 pit stops under green flag conditions, couldn't recover the lost ground. He finished second behind Verstappen. Norris had an even worse time, ending up 4th behind Carlos Sainz. Just like that, what should have been game over for Verstappen became game on for Abu Dhabi. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Former F1 driver Juan Pablo Montoya thinks this disaster might actually be exactly what McLaren needed. I know that sounds completely backwards, but hear me out. According to Montoya, McLaren has been playing it too safe all season. They've been obsessed with fairness and what they call their Papaya Rules, essentially treating both drivers equally rather than maximizing their championship chances. But now they're angry. Both drivers are absolutely livid about what happened in Qatar, and that fury might be the catalyst McLaren needs to finally take the gloves off. Think about it this way. Before Qatar, McLaren could afford to play nice. They had the fastest car, the points advantage, and Verstappen was struggling. They could stick to their principles and still win. But now the championship is genuinely on the line. Norris leads by just 12 points with Piastri, another 4 points back. This is no longer about being fair or following team protocols. This is about survival. The psychology here is fascinating. Lando Norris has struggled under pressure all season. He's had the car to win multiple races, but has often cracked when it mattered most. The criticism has been relentless. Some fans and experts have questioned whether he has the mental strength to win a championship. Qatar was supposed to be his redemption story, his chance to prove the doubters wrong. Instead, it became another chapter in his book of near misses. But here's the thing about pressure. It either crushes you or it forges you into something stronger. Montoya believes the anger and frustration from Qatar could be exactly what Norris needs to find that killer instinct he's been missing. When you're backed into a corner with nowhere to run, sometimes you discover a level of aggression you never knew you had. The same goes for Piastri. The young Australian has been the model team player this season, often sacrificing his own race for the greater good of the team. He's followed team orders, played the supporting role, and watched as opportunities slipped away. But now the gloves might finally come off. If McLaren is serious about winning this championship, they need both drivers firing on all cylinders, not just one. Abu Dhabi presents the perfect opportunity for this new aggressive McLaren to emerge. The Yas Marina circuit has traditionally been a strong track for the team. The car should be competitive there, and unlike Qatar, they'll have learned from their strategic mistakes. The question is whether they'll have the courage to be ruthless when the moment demands it. This is where the championship could be won or lost, not just on track pace or driver skill, but on strategic boldness and mental strength. Verstappen thrives in these high-pressure situations. He's been here before and knows how to handle the intensity. But for McLaren, this is uncharted territory. They haven't been in a championship fight like this in over a decade. The team dynamics are crucial here too. Throughout the season, McLaren has insisted on treating both drivers equally, even when it might have made more sense to focus on one. But now, with the championship on the line, those principles might have to be abandoned. If Piastri is faster in Abu Dhabi but Norris needs the points, what do they do? If team orders could swing the championship, will they finally use them? Montoya hints that this internal pressure could be the key. He suggests that if Verstappen and Red Bull show superior pace in Abu Dhabi, McLaren might finally ask Piastri to play the supporting role. But will the Australian, already frustrated by strategic mistakes, be willing to sacrifice his own chances again? The mental game extends beyond just the drivers. The entire McLaren organization is feeling the heat. Engineers who make split-second strategic calls, mechanics who need to execute perfect pit stops, and management who must make the tough decisions about team orders. Everyone knows that one small mistake could cost them everything. What makes this even more compelling is the redemption narrative. McLaren as a team has been through some dark years. They've struggled with uncompetitive cars, made countless strategic errors, and watched other teams celebrate while they rebuilt from the ground up. This championship represents vindication for all those years of hard work and frustration. For Norris specifically, this is about proving he belongs among the sport's elite. He's been fast enough to win races, but hasn't yet shown the consistency and mental toughness of a true champion. Abu Dhabi gives him one more chance to write his name in history. The technical aspects matter too, of course. McLaren will need to maximize their car setup for the unique demands of the Yas Marina circuit. They'll need to nail their strategy from the first practice session through the race finish. And they'll need to execute everything perfectly when it matters most. But ultimately, this championship will be decided by who wants it more and who's willing to do whatever it takes to get it. The Qatar wake-up call might have been exactly what McLaren needed to find that ruthless edge they've been missing all season. So as we head into Abu Dhabi, we're not just watching a race. We're watching the culmination of a season-long psychological battle between a team learning to win and a champion who never forgot how. The anger from Qatar might just fuel the fire McLaren needs to finally cross the finish line first when it matters most. This is going to be absolutely incredible to watch.